Representation, Creating a Monster. March 14, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. Ever since the Stone Age, when the first people took a stick of charcoal out of the fire pit and started doodling on the walls of the family cave, we Homo sapiens have had a unique ability to represent things. We can, for example, represent a running horse on our cave wall via a drawing, a painting, or a photograph, or we can let our imagination run and create Godzilla or SpongeBob or whatever else we please. While this gift of imagination and ability to represent things, that is, produce pictures that substitute for or represent what is real, as well as pictures of things that are purely imaginary, is a wonderful potential, it is also the equivalent of a granite cliff. We can fall off that cliff. We can lose track of what is real. We can get lost in our own illusionary pictures of reality. Dead images can be substituted for living flesh. And vice versa. A doll or an android can be mistaken for a living man. A fictional character in a novel can be mistaken for you. This becomes a form of insanity and a means for criminality to flourish, too. If nothing is sacred, even the barrier presented by the cave wall, then everything is allowed. Any kind of craziness or cruelty can be wreaked upon cartoon characters. If your name isn't yours, if your country isn't yours, if your face isn't yours, if your DNA isn't yours, and if your stuff isn't yours, well, who are you? And this is exactly the game that the governments of the world have been playing against the people of the earth. They've been representing us, and using their little pictures of us, or, as the case may be, puppets of us, to do all sorts of dreadful things. Our actual government doesn't allow for much representation, and what there is of it, is clearly spelled out in the constitutions. The Pope's municipal government gets to run the mint, the patent, trademark, and copyright offices, the post office system, and has a home base provided for it, the municipality of Washington, D.C., where the Pope has established a national shrine for the federal civil service and their dependents, as citizen of the United States. Except for excursions related to their duties, that's where these municipal employees are supposed to stay, too. They are limited to 1 mile square for a reason. Time has proven that they can be very troublesome if allowed to run rampant. The reason? They have accepted offices of personhood as a condition of employment. They have become persons, pictures of themselves, no longer people. They have agreed, whether they know it or not, to be representative of the Pope's government, franchisees and subjects of the municipality of Rome. And as everyone knows, you can do whatever you want with fictional characters. You can enslave them. You can pillage and plunder and rape them. Just draw whatever you like on the wall. The same conditions of personhood apply to men and women acting under contract to the British Territorial Commonwealth government as members of the U.S. Armed Services. For a period of time known as a tour of duty, they renounce their identity as people and become persons, instead. If we are old enough to remember World War II, we can attest that this is where the infamous municipal STRAWMEN first appeared. John W. Kilroy was here. Right along with the fictitious but all too effective U.S. Army. The British monarch gets to represent our lawful government on the high seas and navigable inland waterways, and can collect taxes and tariffs for these services from regulated activities, the interstate sale, manufacture, and transport of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. That's where the rules, our constitutions, limit the game, but, over the years, both the monarchs and popes have acted in breach of trust. Using the same sleight of hand and false claims of commercial contract, the rats have claimed to have control over you, similar to that claimed by the U.S. Army over its personnel, even though you are an actual American, a third party with respect to their weird world, and not part of it at all. Imagine Yosemite Sam wearing judge's robes, popping out of the page of a comic book and addressing you? What would you do? May I suggest, slap the book shut? Using their representation of you, their very own STRAWMEN, they claim to have the right to move you, take your assets, use your assets for their benefit without paying you, conscript you to serve them, tax you, evict you from your own property, misidentify you as a non-resident alien in your own country, subject you to foreign statutory laws and codes, and treat you as a prisoner of war, when there is no actual war, and you are a civilian having no part in the schmarmy consensual commercial conflict they are misrepresenting as a war, while in fact acting in collusion with each other to bilk the American public. In the same way, the members of the U.S. Congress, not your Congress of Delegates, a Commonwealth entity, claim to represent you. Imagine Cruella de Vil, the vampire-like fashionista in 101 Dalmatians, having your proxy to vote for you in shareholder elections, and you will have the flavor of what this kind of representation actually means. It has nothing to do with public interest. It has nothing to do with any knowing and conscious participation on your part. It's just theft and treason and crime, all based on representing you as a cartoon of yourself, a legal fiction, a corporate franchisee. Or as Queen Bess famously said, a disregarded entity. They don't represent you. They don't have any public interest at heart. They conceive of their role as profit-making for the company, and whatever turns a buck, works. For your information, your congressmen and congresswomen serve as delegates, not representatives. Your United States senators are subject to recall by your state assembly. Your congressional delegates are subject to recall by the electors. Still think that thing in Washington, D.C., is your government? And not just a representation thereof? Subject to artistic interpretation and corporate public policy? My take home to you and yours is that you are fools if you allow this to go on and if you participate in it. You are fools if you let such a government feed off of you and mistake you as its employees or franchisees. You are fools if you continue to let them presume that you are subjects of their popes and their queens. You are fools if you let them presume that you voluntarily occupy any office of personhood related to them and their organizations at all. It's time to wake up and take stock of the difference between people and lawful persons known as people, and the scribbling on the wall. Please consider making a small donation to help support Anna and the Living Law Firm, by visiting theamericanstatesassembly.net, scroll to the bottom and click on the Donate Now button. Thank you. If you enjoy having Anna's latest articles made into videos, please consider making a purchase from Ed's website sacredintuitiveelements.com. Thank you.